Hello you lovely people. Today I'm going to make a video that I've been wanting to make for quite a while, and I'm going to show you how to make macarons. It's a really awesome recipe. It's very simple, so don't worry, I'll take you through it step by step, and let's get started. With macarons, it's all about the equipment and the preparation work. So there's actually only very little steps required, but we actually make sure we have everything prepared ahead. Now I usually tend to start with my first bit of ingredients, which is ground blanched almonds. You can obviously also grind your almonds yourself. Make sure they're blanched almonds though. If you have to grind them yourself, grind them on 10-second speed 10 first, and then you're going to use this next step that I'm doing. This particular part that we're doing right now is called creating a tant, which is essentially the basis of your macaron. And this is the icing sugar that I already have. I would recommend in this recipe not to grind your own sugar. The reason why I don't do that is because I find when you grind your own sugar, it never really gets as fine as it needs to be for a macaron. You really need it to be nice and fine and really sift it well. So that's what we're doing now. I actually use royal icing sugar. You can use any type of icing sugar you like. I find this particular one is extremely good for icing, and so it's very fine, very nice to use. And I essentially just whisk this through for another 10 seconds, and then we're going to sieve it so that it's perfectly even and fine for our tant, which is the entire base of our perfect macaron. Now that that's done, essentially we're just going to drop that through a fine mesh sieve into a bowl. It looks a bit like this now. You see, it's a very fine white mixture that basically doesn't have much of the granules left, and that's exactly what we need. We need this to be really fine. So I'm just going to drop that in here, and then in bits sift it through. You don't have to do the entire mixture at the same time because that will be a bit annoying for you. So I'm just going to put that back in here, and then you sift. Just like that until you're completely done with the entire mixture. This step is essential, so please don't skip it just because you think it might not be necessary. This will make sure you have a perfectly even macaron on the end. I've sifted all of this mixture. It's now completely perfect. You see I've got a little bit of granules left now. You can obviously use this for anything else that you like, but just don't use this in your macaron. That's exactly the stuff that we wanted to avoid in our perfect tant, which is now done. I'm going to pop this to the side. In the meantime, I've actually cleaned my mixing bowl. Make sure you clean this very well. This is an essential step in macaron making, that you have a very, very clean mixing bowl to work with. You can even take a little bit of vinegar and put it on a cloth and actually wipe it clean with vinegar. Just a white vinegar will do. That will help your meringue to actually set really well. And we also need the butterfly for this one. So just make sure you have your butterfly ready, have it all inserted, and then we're going to make our next really essential step in macaron making, which is our meringue. For this one I use eggs, which are actually called old eggs. Now what's an old egg? Basically I crack my eggs the night before, and I actually use the egg whites, pop them in the fridge and leave them overnight. Apparently, and I have tested this, it means that the eggs can become stiffer and actually generate a much better meringue consistency that you can then use to make your macarons much better. So I've actually left them in the fridge overnight, and I'm going to pop them in here now and add a tiny bit of cream of tartar. Cream of tartar just really helps stiffen up your meringue really well, and even if you're just using some eggs and make some kind of egg white mixture and want to stiffen up your egg whites, always add a tiny bit of cream of tartar. I don't add too much, it's about ½ teaspoon. Add right in, and then we're going to work with temperature. I'm going to turn this on 37 degrees because I want to warm up the eggs to the right temperature, good consistency, and then I'm going to slowly pour in just a tiny bit of granulated sugar just to stiffen up the meringue mixture even more. Right, let's do it. So it's been about 4 minutes and I've left it on a temperature. You can see now, I've actually dropped in my caster sugar very, very slowly. It's very stiff. I'm still going to go for another couple of minutes though without temperature, because you want this mixture to almost be too dry, and that's exactly how it should be. This meringue should be really, really dry for you to then do your proper folds. And I'll explain to you what the folds mean in a second. But first let me put this back on just for another couple of minutes until it's really dry. In fact, it should actually just stick to the bowl size. Then you know it's your perfectly stiff meringue and you can go for it. Now see the difference, it's just been another minute and that is proper meringue. You can see how stiff it is and that's what we need. So now we're ready, we've got both of our bases covered, we've got our tant and we've got our meringue, and now it's time to make our macaron. It's actually really simple now. I'm just going to take out the butterfly. Make sure we don't waste any of this good mixture. So I just, ooh, that was close, wasn't it? I'm just going to pop that in, and essentially now what you need is a bowl, a large bowl that is enough for your tant and for your meringue. You pop in all of your tant, okay, just like that. And then we're going to teach you what a fold is. A fold is actually essentially folding in the meringue into the bowl, okay? So we're gonna start with half, and this is where people totally split up. Some people say do it in bits, some people say do it on one go, and you can be quite rough with it. I find it works really well in bits, so I'm just going to add half of my meringue. And essentially a fold just means you're folding in the meringue like that. I always go around like this. You'll see right at the beginning it's extremely dry, it won't be easy, but that's exactly what you want. You want this mixture to struggle a little bit, and always keep scraping and keep going underneath. Everyone is different here, everyone has a different folding technique. Mine is fairly simple. Once I start incorporating more meringue, I actually start going through the middle, pushing it against the edge of my bowl, and then I start getting a mixture. This is almost the point where I'm going to introduce the other half of the mixture. Others say you deflate the mixture too much if you are going to do it in steps. I found it works really well for me. At this point I'm going to add the other half. Some people actually say that you need to do a set amount of folds. I'm not a big fan of telling you exactly how many folds you should do because it feels like that's going to get you out of the natural rhythm. So I feel like you should just go with what looks right. Once the mixture comes together in the right way, and you'll see this here now, then you should stop, okay? This could be anywhere between 20 folds or 30 or 40 or even 50 folds. Totally up to you and your individual skills, and also how fast you are and how well you incorporate it. But see me always scraping the bowl, making sure the mixture always ends up in the middle. That's what I tend to want. Really nice. And make sure you also scrape the bowl right at the bottom so you get every single last bit of this almond mixture, the tant incorporated into your meringue. At this point I'm actually going to incorporate my food colouring. You could of course make a chocolate version of these. At the point where you are doing the icing sugar tant mixture, you can actually add in, instead of 300 grams of icing sugar, if you're making double the recipe like me, just add 270 grams of icing sugar and a little bit of cocoa powder. That will make a dark mixture. You could even add in some espresso powder, be really nice. But I quite like pink, as you all know, and I'm going to add in some pink food colouring. I use gel food colouring here. I find that gel food colouring works really well. I find other food colourings don't work as well. Again, this is done very carefully with a spatula. You don't want to overbeat it at this stage. You don't want to knock out too much air, because remember, this is a really delicate mixture at this point, and knocking out too much air means that the consistency is going to get too thin. So I'm just going to make sure very slowly to add in a tiny bit of this food colouring. It's looking really nice and pink, I love it. So the mixture is now done, and essentially it should look a bit like this. It's quite thick. It should sort of drop off really slowly. It could be even thicker if you have done less folds, and that's absolutely fine. It's just about how you are incorporating the meringue into your tant. You don't want to knock out the air too much, and at this point I'm just going to take it to my station. I've already prepared myself a station. Do that as well at home. You now prepare your oven, preheat it to 120 degrees. I also prepare myself a tray with some greaseproof paper or a silicone baking mat if you have one, and you're going to get yourself a piping bag ready so that you can now pipe the mixture. And I'll show you the last step, which is the crucial meringue making step, so you can get those nice little feet. So last thing that we need to make our macaron perfect is essentially pat it on the surface like this. Then you rotate it, rotate it, rotate it, and rotate it. You see what happens is some air bubbles are actually popping, and you're getting a much more even mixture. Now I'm going to leave this to actually dry out while my oven is preheating for a good 25 to 30 minutes. You'll see what happens is that eventually a skin will essentially build on top, and that's when they're ready to go into the oven. That's how you get your feet, and that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to see you again in about half an hour and we'll do the rest. So it's been about 30 minutes, and you can see now I'm going to basically just touch them. They're just completely dry, and that's exactly what you want. You want a nice skin on them. So now I'm going to pop them in the oven and bake them, and we'll see how they turn out. Make sure your oven is not too hot at this stage, and watch them because they will really quickly bake. All of a sudden get brown, and you don't want that. The macarons are now out of the oven. They look really wonderful. They've got lovely feet. They've baked really well. They haven't cracked at the top. That's exactly what we want in our macaron. I took about 18 minutes for mine, so it might be something around that time. You'll see the feet popping up. You'll see them when you are lifting the baking paper, and you can actually lift them off ever so slightly off the baking paper in the oven, then you know they're done. They won't be stuck anymore, and that's exactly what you want in your macaron. Make sure if you do use the silicone baking mat, by the way, that you do grease it a little bit beforehand because it tends to stick otherwise, or alternatively you can just use greaseproof paper and draw yourself some little circles. I now have these usually with buttercream, which you can find in my other video. The link is going to be below. Or you can use any other filling you like, really, as long as you fill them really nice and thick with some lovely stuff. Lemon curd goes really well as well. These are my lovely macarons. I've basically just made some buttercream, which you can get the recipe for in the link below. And you find that on my YouTube channel. I've got lots of really cool basic recipes for those. I actually added in though some jam. So I just added some jam to my buttercream because I thought it looks really cute. It goes with the pink theme since we're all going pink today. And I've piped it on, made a little sandwich, and here's my finished macaron, which I'm going to just eat now, I guess, huh? Yum. Look at that. That's a lovely, wonderful flavour. Tastes like strawberries. It tastes really, really nice. Perfect mixture of almond, sweetness, buttercream, jam. Absolutely perfect. And if you want to make something as perfect as this, not saying that just perfect, but they are pretty good. As far as the macaron goes, follow these cool tips and follow this video on my YouTube, and subscribe to more awesome videos on my YouTube channel, Sophia's Kitchen. And I'll see you guys next time with another lovely, yummy video.